Hello. The Bloodlust is live. Yes, I am slightly late today. Only based on my own schedule, but had a couple setbacks. Had to remove what felt like toxic waste from my body. And now we're here. Appreciate everybody who's here for the stream, afterwards for the VOD. Either way, greatly appreciate you. If you are here for the Trackmania content, stick around. We're going to be getting right into it. If you are here for the news at the end of the video, probably fast forward about, I'm going to guess like 45 minutes to an hour. That's usually how long it takes for me to get through the discovery. Maybe about an hour and a half. But in any case, so we are going to be looking at the Trackmania Week 35 records. I actually got myself a really good time thanks to one of last week's viewers. Actually, they did help me out quite a bit. Appreciate you. Also, we are going to be looking at some interesting space news, something a little different from my channel, but this is something that I just could not pass up. It is very interesting and may become relevant to everybody, regardless of whether you care about aliens, okay, or if you want to be paying attention to like any kind of solar weather, stuff like that. We have been getting hit by a lot of solar weather lately, so we'll be jumping into that a little bit later, but for now, as I said, we are going to hop into Trackmania 2020, checking out week 35, seeing what's up with the records. There was some pretty interesting tracks last week. I did enjoy the mix that we had, the combination of different styles and mediums, and one of them that required some bug slides, which is not an unknown trick, but definitely one that isn't, I would say, like a entry level thing. So here, of course, as you can see, always gotta pre-roll the first track. I can't help myself. You know, I got to do something with my Monday nights. So we're gonna jump into week 35. We're gonna check out the records. There was actually some really good runs I saw. We're looking at regions here in Oregon. I am number 9 overall. That is right. I feel really good about that. Actually, number 9 in Oregon for the week. I just popped off. I had a bit of inspiration. A couple of these maps were like right on target for me. I did want to grind out Death Road a little bit more. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the like challenge kind of, or the challenging medium of it, like the uneven road and being dirt on the edge of a cliff. It was just very reminiscent of some of the kind of older racing games that I used to really love and get into a lot. So we're going to start, of course, with Brixton Arena. This was one that had some kind of interesting little cuts to it. Things that you might see pretty easily, but you might also not really expect. So we're going to start out here, do a little dry run on it. So as you can see, you got a little hill here at the start. One good thing, actually, is this grid. They have this grid here. It's very helpful. I got to get back into the groove of it, but it gives you like the perfect timing or the perfect line to aim for to get down this hill. You go on the fourth one there, a little too tight, but then you can aim for that black line right there and take a really tight line across that. And then you want to cut across here. And I actually managed to make that kind of smoothly, even though I slowed down a lot. But it's a kind of a tough line. I managed to get myself number 10 in Oregon when I did that line. I think it was number 6 or 7, but of course, you know, a couple people got in there ahead of me. I did grind that out actually a lot. I have probably 5 or 6 recordings on the box. But we're going to go ahead and look at the records here. View records. We got Bird, Switch MX, and Solivagants. Lots of interesting names here. But anyway, Bird, Switch MX, and Ikoko, top 3 there. They are all really close to each other. We actually have a tie between Giuliano and Ikoko. That's kind of exciting. So we're going to go ahead and check them all out here. We're going to start with Solivagants. Solevagan. Sovan. Volgus. Taking a really tight line there, actually rocking up on 2 wheels, but keeping the grip, and nice tight line through the first upright across the pole, but did not get quite as tight of a turn as everybody else, ending up at the end, taking kind of a wide line, but getting 5th place is definitely respectable. We're going to switch to Switch MX. Switch taking a little bit wider of a line here. Just barely missing that wall on the left side and super tight to the right. Losing a little bit of speed there, but coming around, cutting that corner and making it right into the soonest, almost as close as you can get into that finish. Great line, absolutely excellent line. I want to look at just Ikoko and Giuliano here because they have a perfect tie. Ikoko going a little bit more wide. Giuliano coming in super tight though. Ikoko getting closer to the wall and a much tighter line. But they both get a good line, cutting the corner and coming across the finish at exactly the same moment. That is just crazy. It does actually look like Giuliano was slightly ahead there into the finish. If you look at it, his wheel was slightly more forward. He actually might have been like a few picoseconds ahead, but it doesn't go that far down the timer. So let's look at Switch MX and Bird here from Bird's perspective. Bird getting the world record. Well done. Super tight, close to that wall. Barely keeping grip on the road, but also barely getting past that. And holy cow, drifting into that upright, almost touching it with his front left tire. That was a super tight line, really tight right there. And oh my, he could not have been more than like a pixel away from both of those uprights going around that corner, drifting sideways like that. That is such a tight space. Incredible. Oh my god, incredible run by Bird. Excellent work by everybody, truly. Switch MX, an Xbox player, 2nd place in the world, only 2,000s behind. Honestly, that is incredibly respectable. Heck yeah, represent for the console crew. Well done to everybody in the top 5. I almost made it into the top 1,500. I feel pretty good about that, but you know, I'm not a pro by any means, though I did get a really good run last week, and we will be looking at that. Appreciate everyone who's here. Greatly appreciate those over on Rumble. You guys are awesome. So this one I actually enjoyed a lot. As I said, this is the Death Road. You're on this bumpy dirt surface on the edge of a cliff. I'm pretty sure every one of the gray spots is pavement or stone, contextually. So you want to get a really nice, kind of try to get a nice smooth run here. It is difficult. I think same person last week gave me a little piece of advice that you can actually use action keys on console. You have to preset it, specifically go into the controls and stuff. But if you go correctly here, there is actually a really smooth path, and you want to go really tight to the left. I'm not getting the run, but I also don't have the right action key. I have action key 3 activated actually for the next track on this list, but action key 2 seems to be the optimal key for this track. So we're gonna go to the left, nice smooth line there. Smooth line, and you really want to go tight to the left there so you can go tighter to the right into the finish. Keep your speed a little bit. It is a little bit of a tricky run, but we are going to look at the records. We got Bricks, Jordan, Monai, Giuliano again in 4th place, and some pig in the top 5 here. So we're going to start from Some Pig's perspective. Pulling up the rear. Oh, we're going to restart that. Pulling up the rear. Super tight to the left there. Almost falls off the edge of the road, but that's the line that you want. Again, you want to go tight here to the left so you can go tighter to the right. Full grip the whole way. No slide, even one moment. Excellent run by everybody here. Of course, as you can see, again, you want that smooth line, as smooth as possible. There is a lot of bumps, but if you take the right angle, you can keep full grip almost all the way. There are a couple of forced jumps, but you can almost make it all the way with full grip. And we can see my PB actually is not even that far behind them. Pretty good about that. I'm 600ths. That's half a second, but still not a lot. So we got Giuliano and Some Pig almost tying, again, almost a tie in the top 5. We're gonna go from Manny's perspective here. Nice, super tight, keeping your grip on the left side, almost falling off there though. Again, you want to keep your grip all the way, and dropping to like at an angle there is actually good. You hit the ground sooner with your tires, allowing you to accelerate, gaining more speed. And as you can see, he does actually manage to catch up on both of them by quite a bit there at the end. If he had a smoother line right here, yeah, if he had a smoother line right there just before the final checkpoint, he actually might have had the world record. But we're gonna again look at Jortim and Bricks from Bricks' perspective. Bricks here, super tight to the left, keeping the full grip all the way, almost not leaving the ground at any time. Beautiful, perfect turn right there, keeping all of his speed into the finish for the world record. 12 thousandths ahead of Jortim. Well done to Bricks, well done to Jortim, Manny, Giuliano, and Some Pig, all in the top 5. Great work. This is a very fun track. I thought I added this one to my favorites already. Yeah, I'm going to add that one to my favorites because I want to come back and grind on it. It's a fun track. The leaderboards are closed, but the world records are still being tracked by the community to some degree. Now this is the one, the Fjords. I got number 2 in Oregon, and big shout out to last week's viewer. I can't remember the name at the moment, and I feel bad for that, but they gave me a really good piece of advice, was that you can go under the track here. Kind of interesting. Not sure if they intended that, but not only did I make it to top 2, number 2 in Oregon, I was actually number 1 for like 3 days, and somebody managed to pick it from me on like Friday, I think. And I grinded this track so much Friday, Saturday, Sunday before the reset, and I had one run where I was almost a full car length ahead, and I freaking missed the finish line. Oh my god, the trajectory on it. I think I recorded it, but I'm not gonna go back through that right now. In any case, this is the one where you want to have the action key 3. You go nice tight line here, and you want to keep full contact so you can get all the speed from that downhill section And there is actually a booster to the right that could possibly give you more speed. But the only thing about that booster is it sends you through a bunch of grass, and if you don't get the perfect line down that hill, you're going to slide out and lose all of your speed. I'm guessing one of the people in the top 5 or 10 might have possibly used that path, but number 2 in Oregon. Again, as I was saying, not only did I get number 2 in Oregon, but I actually got almost into the top 500 in the world. Oh my God. Oh, holy cow. And they're 3 seconds ahead. Two seconds. 2 seconds and 25 thousandths. How is that even? They must have used the booster. I am very interested to see how this goes. I can't believe, wow. 2 full seconds, almost 3 seconds. That's crazy. Wow. Okay, we're going to see what's up here. So we're going to start from Fola's point perspective. Tim, number 4. Tim, 888881. Okay, they go way to the left and over the fence. I tried. What is, oh my. How do you, nah, 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 no, 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 no. See, like, so this is the thing. These are the kinds of things that, like, I almost didn't want to accept the one dude's advice from last week. I mean, I did, but I took it happily. It took me a while to figure out what he meant by going underground, though. It took me a while to figure that out. He didn't just give me like a video or something to go with. He kind of described it, and it took me a moment to find the right path. But I tried going over that fence. I knew if I could go over that fence, I could get there faster somehow. But that is insane. So the point that I was trying to get at was the only way somebody could find this kind of path is if somebody gave them like a YouTube video to watch. And I feel like that should be like disallowed, because it's supposed to be a secret. All the records are secret, and you're not supposed to be able to see it at the end or until the end. And the fact that so many people take such a wild and unreasonable path, like, obviously 1 or 2 people probably had to figure it out on their own, but there's no way that all of these people figured that out naturally. Anyway, we're gonna go from Kasha's perspective. Cassius and Coin, so close to each other, almost fused right there in the same spot. Coin getting just a slightly better bug slide into the finish, hitting with the back instead of the front, which actually is lighter, so allows it to lift sooner. Also a straighter line into the finish there. Or actually, they hit with the middle, and Cautious hit with the middle, yeah, and Coin hit with the back, yeah. Just a slightly better line. Well done to everybody. Not gonna say pulling it off is, you know, not impressive. I will, you know, anybody that made it into the top 5 with this path is insane, and I hugely respect that, but just that is cheating to me. Hello, Natalia. Thank you for joining. How are you doing today? I do not have the multi-stream up. That's my bad. Anyway, well done to everybody in the top 5. Coin, Cassius, Tim, Jortim, and Folas. All excellent runs to everybody. I highly question how they collected that information and figured that out. I think if it's got like hidden leaderboards and stuff like that, then you should not be allowed to share information. Just that simple. In any case, I feel good about almost making it into the top 500. That is definitely my best score on a single trek. Well, no, actually, I had one where I was in the top 200, but that was like a random chance track, not really much about skill. This one is fun. So basically, it's kind of a slalom, and you've got these magnet blocks and dirt in the corners. You want to try to take the dirt as straight as possible so you can keep your speed, and then you want to take a nice tight line through this corner so you can actually get into the finish as tight as possible there. I definitely failed that run. Map 3 records are crazy good. Yeah, I know. I mean, the path is epic, and you know, being able to pull that off is definitely impressive, but they didn't all just find that naturally. Somebody's in a Discord channel somewhere sharing their finishes before the end of the week, and I feel like that's unfair, but I suppose that's just me. Anyway, map 4, Dune Dozer. It is a fun one. I did grind this one a little bit. It is definitely a precision thing. You want to try to get as close to those corners here as possible again, but you want to have a nice straight trajectory. You want to go across the dirt, turning as little as you can get away with so that you can keep as much speed as you can, and then as tight as possible into that finish. That was a much better run, but still not incredible. We're not here for my shenanigans, though. We are here for the records. This is the one, right? Yeah. Solovagance, Ikoko, Aquarium, and Giuliano, all in the top 5 here. Give me one moment. I was home alone, but that's okay. In any case, so we're going to go ahead and look at Giuliano, Aquarium, Ikoko, and Solovagance to begin with. From Giuliano's perspective, pulling up the rear in the top 5, we have a really, really close record here, though, between Ikoko and the record holder. So you can see everybody getting super close to that wall. Nice straight trajectory, almost keeping all of their speed around that corner and just missing that wall into the finish. Of course, as I was saying, you want to get a nice straight line as close to every one of these walls as possible. It just requires precision, really. That is just the hallmark here. And yes, I do play on the Xbox. I am a console player for life. That's right, console player master race. Solovagance in second place, of course, with a 17-1-3-3-6. We got a tie between Ikoko and Solovagance for second place, but the naming convention not holding up. Not sure what's up with this, because usually Ikoko would be first, but it must be whoever collected the record first, of course. But then Hefes got this run. I had to say it. Here he is, speed slide, barely turning at all into that corner, and just perfectly into the finish. Just beautiful, missing each wall by maybe no more than a few pixels. Up onto the border there, barely turning through that corner, and chef's kiss. Hefest, of course, a king on dirt. However, the funny thing is that the point here is you want to make contact with as little dirt as possible, so it's actually like the reverse of his style, but then again, he's also really good at tech too. Every year, right? That's like his year end, his one video on his main channel. Like, well done to Hefest. Always has to come back every once in a while and remind us that he is a true god on dirt and will always remain relevant. That's funny. Well done to everybody in the top 5. Hefes, Solvagance, Ikoko, Aquarium, and Giuliano. Two-way tie between Solvagance and Ikoko. That's pretty impressive. And being only a thousandth behind Hefest. That's really Hefest's thing. Not only does he have to come in and prove that he is still one of the masters, but he does it by like 1 or 2 thousandths of a second. It's never like a mind-blowing amount. It's always just like a little minuscule, microscopic, tiniest freaking improvement, just enough to get up there. But it's always enough, and he does it well. Good job to everybody. Dune Dozer was a fun one. I definitely did like the precision of it. And now this is the one with the special interaction, Slip and Bug Slide. And this is a pretty easy track, in my opinion. It really does give you the Bug Slide super tight there into the first turn, and you want to get into the Bug Slide as early as possible so you can go tight across there. I did not get a good exit out of the Bug Slide on that one. I could have carried much more speed through there, but there is a trick to bug sliding. You can kind of see how it does like a little shake. If you catch it right as it does one of those shakes and straighten out at the perfect moment, you'll carry all of your speed. And if you do it right and turn into the correct angle, you'll actually gain speed off of that. However, I only managed to do it on the last one right into the finish. You can see, boom, there. I pretty much kept all of my speed. This was a fun one. I do like, again, like I said, I do like the bug slide mechanic. It's a fun interaction, and it's just funny that they actually had to like modify the game to put it back because they actually like fixed it at one point and people were so upset. Like, no, you fixed the glitch, how could you? Like, it's just hilarious. Obviously, I'm not going to do the best run here, but just to show you how it can be done, you got to land at like pretty much a 90-degree angle there and hold the brake all the way across. You want to hold the brake while you're in the turn. There's another way to do it. You can tap the brake, but it's better to do that on like grass. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and look at the records here. We got Twist, Bricks again, Jortim. Jortim is pretty much in every top 5. His name is becoming familiar this week. Eric Zamore and Zuck, I guess. We're going to go from Eric Zamore's perspective. Going wide to the left. Oh my god, yes, they're going to do the wall ride. See, this was the thing. Okay. I had a view, that same viewer again last week was saying, you should try the wall ride, and I did try the wall ride, and I was like, holy crap, you gained so much speed out of that first wall ride. If you can get like the perfect bug slide and then wall ride again in the, I had the path. I hate that. I've done that so many times where I have like pieced together the world record route, but I just can't pull it off. That's what keeps me freaking invested in this game, is I can see those routes. If I could pull it off just once, I know I can get a record. Always by milliseconds and always on skill maps. Yep, that's Hefe's specialty. Anyway, well done to everybody here in the top 5. We're gonna look at Twist and Bricks. We're gonna get rid of everybody here. We're gonna look at, from Bricks' perspective, doing a little bit of a wiggle at the start, gaining some speed. Actually, that was smart. Super smooth wall ride. Early bug slide, nose down, but he didn't get the speed out of it. And Twist did the double bug slide into the finish. Twist was actually behind here, but the double bug slide is what managed to get him that finish because he went early off of that right path. And again, that was a route that I saw. I saw that route. I saw it, but I wasn't sure if the bug slide or the wall ride was faster. I thought the bug slide was impossible, to be honest, just because you have so much speed there. But he just does it right. Twist has such an excellent run there. Well done. Oh my god, like missing that wall by a pixel. And again, like I said, double bug sliding. He actually gets just a tiny tick of a bug slide off of that ramp before the upper platform, bouncing off of the ceiling with so much speed and just getting an immediate bug slide in the finish. Excellent run by Twist, doing it just that much better than everybody else. Well deserved. See, that's the kind of thing I like to see. When not everybody is doing literally the exact same route, that's how you know, like they did it themselves and they freaking put the work into that and they did it right. I appreciate that. Well done to Twist, Bricks, Jortim, Zuck, and Eric Zamore, all in the top 5 there. I barely even made it in the top 8,000 on this track. I am not very well versed at bug slides, but I'm getting better. Was a very fun week. Week 35, one of the funnest so far, in my opinion. Not the funnest. I mean, there have definitely been some super good, like, highlight tracks, but I managed to make it number 9 in Oregon, top 300 in the United States, and just barely stayed in the top 1,500 in the world. I mean, I feel pretty good about that. That's honestly one of my best scores so far. Great work to Hefest with basically that one run getting him into the top 5. Coin, Bird, Jortim in second place, and Bricks bringing it into first place, world record holder by score of week 35 with 23,000 points basically ahead of everybody else. So let's go ahead and jump into week 36. Thank you for being around and checking out the records with me. If you enjoy the content, of course, hit that follow or subscribe button. Thank you so much for following over on Rumble. I see that. However, unfortunately, I can't see who you are because it said 2 people followed at the same time. I don't know how to set up alerts for Rumble, so that's something I'm going to have to work on. But in any case, thank you so much. You guys are greatly appreciated. Do you also get ATs? Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, like, ATs are, and this isn't like a humble brag or anything like that, but like ATs are usually like first or second run. They make the ATs really easy in the weeklies, like honestly kind of disappointingly easy. There are a few of the mappers that will put up like a sign at the start that says like real author time or actual author time, and then you can try to do a run for that if you want. But as far as like the official author times are concerned, they're super easy. Like I said, kind of disappointingly easy. This track is a fun one. First track of week 36 actually has some alternate paths. Stargazer is the name of the track. I like how it says good luck, have fun at the start. And it gives you a safe path and a hard path. So we're going to go just do a quick drive. You want to keep contact down that hill, of course, so you want to start at an angle here. Keep all of your speed. We're going to go the hard way. Because why not? We're not scared. A little wide there. I could have done that much tighter. I feel like I'm like in half slow-mo or something. Whoopsie. There's a rock. I have taken both paths so far. I suppose I can't show you the safe path, but it definitely seems like the hard path is the faster one, which makes sense. High risk, high reward. And I haven't really looked around. You can use free cam. Now on console. That was not a thing that was available before. But I feel like there could possibly be a hidden finish on the hard route. And you might be able to actually do that one, do the safe route faster. Early into that downhill, but I think I lost myself speed with that nose down. Oh, dang it. Gotta go wide there. I had a really good line, but I wrecked it. Wait, can I go? Is that plastic? It is. Are you going fast enough to bug slide that? Oh yeah, interesting. Doesn't gain speed though like I was hoping, so we're gonna stick with the plebeian route. Oh yeah, full grip. Okay, so you can do that without a drift. Alright. I was just scared, I guess. Keep our speed there, except for... Dang it, I landed slight angle. Screwed myself. Looking at chat. Damn it. Angle again. Oh, that wasn't that bad. A little wide here. We can keep full grip. I was actually slightly faster with the drift though. Let's see if the safe way might actually harbor some gains if we do it right. Oh, I lost a little bit of grip there. Half a second behind. I don't know if you could really gain much from that, to be honest. You can bug slide that, but it's rough. That's not worth it. No, that's not worth it either. You don't want to touch those light bars because you bounce and lose some speed. Though... that was too much. You want to catch some of that downhill there. Nice. There we go. Oh, yeah. Ooh, that's the one. Nice. Yeah. Boom. Huge improvement. Out the rip. Let's go. Still not even in the top 100. Alright, there is definitely a hidden finish or something. So let's see. That just goes off into space. Can we possibly... like, no, it doesn't look like there's a way to bounce over anything. Booster. See that light bar there? It's just a distraction. Nothing there. I feel like there's gotta be some kind of trick here. If you're here for the space news, definitely do please stick around. I will be getting into that here at some point very soon. Definitely worth. Why is that there? There seems no reason to have that wide spot. Is there... Wait, where's the last checkpoint? Okay, it's like right before the finish line on both sides. Yeah. It's not really... Can't really cut that. No matter how you look at it, there's no way to cut that. Let's see, there's these random rocks out here. They're like some kind of super secret invisible path or something. Looks like just random asteroids floating out in space. So let's see. If we go just a little hole into nothing. Okay, anyway, if we go over this corner here, bug slide, might be able to get enough speed. Oh, I use controller. I mean, I've tried keyboard. Can't use keyboard on console though. I have played on the PC, but the problem is that you don't get to carry your club access over between platforms, which is really annoying. So I'm not paying freaking twice for club access. That actually might have some promise. Nope, never mind. I lied. Yeah, I use controller. I suppose I could try action key in a couple of spots, might get like a slightly smoother approach or something, but oh, that was a little rough. Yeah, controller's more precise, but also requires a lot more. I mean, I was gonna say skill, but like I don't think it really necessarily requires skill, because there's a lot of skill necessary to all the little tippity taps that people on the keyboard do. But oh wow, okay, I did not. How did I improve right there? Was that just tighter line? Alright, well, I don't know if I'm gonna get a huge amount of improvement off of that right now until I figure something out, because I'm definitely missing something. Alright, track 2. This one looks like a fun one. Horizon. Is that the style and stuff? Feels like a shout out to me. The Hieroglyph campaign. No, well, yeah, I played one track, but not the whole thing. Yeah, I have tried a couple of the meme campaigns. That was good, but not great. I could have skipped a lot more of that grass right there. Okay, this is track 2, so not a Pathfinder, but still feels like a Pathfinder. Okay, so yeah, you want to hit that right side there, get contact with the pavement sooner, skip all of that grass, skip as much of that grass as possible, pavement. I lost some speed there. Yep, I knew it. Wow, dead tie. That's crazy. Doesn't happen very often. Okay, so we want to skip as much of this grass as possible. That downhill's not terrible, but that was good. And skip as much of that as we can. I had a much better line. Wow. That's crazy. This week? Well done. Oh, yeah. No, maybe don't want to skip that tight. Aw, damn tree branch. Okay, that wasn't bad. Okay, that was pretty good. Oh, we want to keep contact there because that's pavement. 1, 2, 3. That's like secretly my number for some reason. I see it everywhere. Any kind of concentric number pattern from like 1 to 5. Been seeing it a lot lately. There's a clear meaning for that in numerology, but God. 2 sideways. Landed 2 sideways. Lost a ton of speed because I hit the rough part of the car. Okay, nope. We want to skip that first section of grass for sure. Nice tight line there. Boom, skip all of that. A little bit of speed. Skip all of that. Nope, that was bad. If we can get a little bit of a downhill off of that with like 1 tire, 1 or 2 tires, that might be good. Downhill. There we go. Ah, dang. Land a little too much of an angle to the right. Ooh, shit. Yeah, that's not gonna do it. Okay, like almost dead even right there. A little bit of a downhill, catch that pavement, and try to... Man, how did I get such a good alignment? I feel like there might be a finish to the left. Maybe? U-turn finish? No. I mean, that would make sense. Aha! I knew it. Is that faster? Yes, because I can... Yes. Okay. Ah, shit. Okay. Boom, shoot over all of that grass. Catch that downhill for a little bit of speed. Skip a bunch of that grass. No! Dang. Okay, so we're gonna have to like bug slide. That was a really good run though. If I'd even just gone to the normal finish, I would have gained a ton of time with that. That downhill for a little bit of speed. Skip as much of that as possible. Keep contact. And into the finish. Yeah! Boom! What a huge bump that was right there. Alright, well, there is that hidden finish, though. I want to take a couple of runs on that. If you can hit that just right. Do I even have to go? No, I can just go straight there. I've been trying to straddle the freaking hill for no reason. Going like freaking 5 kilometers an hour right there. There's no reason. Not fast enough to gain air off of that. Okay. Catch that downhill for speed. Skip a bunch of that grass. Oh man, that was actually kind of close. I can feel that. I can feel it. I know this is... There is a huge gain there. Oh, skip a ton of that grass, but didn't get the speed. Almost. What? Oh, there's a checkpoint. Okay, so you have to... Alright. I wasn't counting checkpoints. Ooh, nice. That was a good amount of speed there. Right, so you go this checkpoint. Huh. Okay. Ah! Dang tree. Okay. So we want to go really tight there. Oh, I hit the tree. Can't really see. You probably couldn't even see it, but my controller vibrated. And I slowed down a ton. Hello, hello. Greatly appreciate everybody over on Rumble. Getting lots of activity over there lately. That is awesome. Definitely hit that follow button. Trying to make it into the creator program. I'm really close, actually. Thankfully, it counts both my personal and my live stream channel. So, oh crap, that was way wide. Oof. Okay. Nope. Ah, dang it. The road pushes you a little bit. We take that just because I want to experiment with the finish. I need to figure out that line. I just need to get there. Okay, that was a good line. Ooh, that's a good line too. Pavement, nice. And then bump across that grass, keep contact there, and then boom, immediate turn to the finish. Dang it. If we don't bump that corner, actually might be faster. Whee! Nope. Ton of grass there. Ah, hit the corner again. Of course, you want to turn as early as possible, so, I mean, obviously it would be probably slightly easier to go past the first pole, but, ah, dang it. The fastest route is always going to be the soonest. That's not always true either. At least not in this game. Ooh, nice downhill. Oh, that would have been it. Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's the one. You want the alt finish. Definitely want the alt finish. So, we try to skip as much of that as possible. Wiggle across the grass. Hopefully, conserve some speed. Bounce there. And then we go early. Alt finish. Yeah! Let's go. Alright, so I can improve hugely there, because that was actually a terrible run. Dang it. Ah, where's Zaphon when you need him? Oh, no! I bumped the corner. Okay, pavement. Huge. Yes! Another slight improvement. Just eking it out there. 117. I like that. I'll keep it for now. Represent. Always nostalgia for the Halo years. What is going on with Twitch right now? Alright, there we go. That was weird. It was like black screen, like glitching out. Can't cheat physics. I mean, there's a lot of physics cheating in this game. Alright, we're gonna go snow car. Not my favorite, but I seem to actually do pretty well with it. Especially now that I know I can use action keys. Action key 3. Action key 3. Oh, no. No more action keys. Okay. So, action key 3 actually for most of that is good. There's like so many alternate paths here. I have a feeling this is going to be another one where the best way to finish is going to be from like jumping from one path to another. Oh, there you go. Author? Nice. Snow car gets you the author medal. But, oh, nice. We're going to see what the other ones have in store. This is a red path. Dirt. Okay. Drifties. Aw, too late. Oh, and I didn't mean to reset either. Okay, much more speed this time. Oof, yeah. Maybe too much speed this time. Heyo! Just got the author medal for this one. Was pretty easy. Not keep as much speed that time. Ah, and I drifted way late again. Is this a snow path? Oh, there's so many paths. It is an ice path. I knew it. I don't know why I knew it. I just saw the sign there and it made me think ice. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, okay, well, at least you don't have to really go anywhere with that. That path sucks! Or I suck at that path. Whoa! Did not mean to turn that tight. Whee! What? I was so far ahead there. The freaking rally car is like a slow-mo almost. That's crazy. Or rally car the whole way. Why would you do that? There like totally is a slow-mo. Okay, how about full 180? Oh, there is something here. Water path. This is what you were talking about, huh? Whoa. Wicked. Back slow-mo. Back right or back left? Oh, okay. Interesting. Go. Whee! Oh, shit. Okay. Keeping your grip's gonna be tough there. Ooh. Didn't quite see that. Okay. Okay. Dang it. Is that not the one? So it's over here. Whoa. That was kind of wicked. Okay, we're gonna try that again. I had to release a lot right there. Drive down. Oh, okay. Slow-mo. Other snow car. Which one? The one on top of the water or the one under the water? This one? mean, they're both pretty fun. Ooh, okay. On top of the water, yeah. Oh, no. Oops. Hit the button too soon for some reason. So you want to go wide there. Do this kind of thing. But you want to keep your speed. If you turn too sideways... That was going to take some practice. I do like these ones though, like the hydroplane maps and the underwater stuff, and I appreciate the fact that they got more people that are doing it. Oh shit. Of course I hit the wall. Not like the best run ever, but it was pretty good. Ah, damn it. It's an interesting path. Damn. So you're saying I could gain 3 seconds off of that? I believe it. Yeah, well, that was half a second. Just gotta aim better, I guess. Drive smoother. I will say, Action Key 3 made a huge difference for me right there. Shit. If I can make it around that first corner smooth without losing so much speed. There we go. That's better. Still not amazing though. Ah, shit. Oh, man. Dang. You go slightly wider there, slightly tighter onto the next one, and then super tight into the finish. Damn it. The first water turn is most important. Yeah, for sure. I pretty much realized that like immediately, because if you turn too tightly, then you freaking slide out and you lose all of your speed. Oh, that's actually kind of good if I can do that at the right angle. And you don't want to turn immediately, you actually want to turn a little late. Get more of that downhill and a straighter angle into the freaking the water here. Damn it. Nope. There we go. Keep full contact. Nope. Just turn sooner. Ah! God, that just got to be right in my way. I need to go a little bit wider there so I can come back earlier. Oops. Uh-oh. I appreciate you. Which farming sim you playing? You playing Farming Sim 2025? Farming Sim 2020? Or did they even do it? They didn't do it 2020, did they? No. Everyone says 2015 is the best. My family plays Farming Sims. I am actually familiar. It's so funny to me though, like I don't get it. I don't get the appeal of Farming Simulator 2025. Okay. Yeah, my this is gonna sound terrible. My grandfather plays Farming Sim. He buys all the new ones. He said he didn't really like 25 because of like the regions and the stuff, like the way that certain stuff is locked. Like it makes it difficult to oh, that was a good run. Makes it difficult to grow some things, and like you have to have multiple farms. And I mean, it was like that before, but I guess he doesn't like the Asian countries. He doesn't like rice. People play farming. Yeah, it's called farming. Oh my god. I know I say that too. I'm like, you know, like people actually like do this in real life. It's called farming. Like, like, and like get something out of it. Of course, here I am playing video games. Like, I have much room to talk. No! Oh my god! Oh my god! Ah! Can you play the fourth map and show me how to aim the bug slide with speed? Okay, well, give me a minute here to do a couple of runs on this track, because I just had a really good run, and I know I can freaking do that again. Damn it, that was really bad. Do you play Forza? I do, yes. I have a near record run, kind of an old video on my channel for one of the summer seasonal events from like 2 years ago, I think now. But yes, I do. I don't really play the main series. Not to say that I don't like it, but like the last few have been very lacking. I don't know, just the physics, like they didn't do great with 7 or just Forza they called it, but it really is like the 7th one. Yeah, I play Horizon a lot. I like Horizon just because of like the story style of it. Fourth map is 16 without the bug slide. 6th in your state. Oh, pretty good. All right, well, yeah, like I said, here, give me a moment and I'll check it out. Not even anywhere close to that run I had. Oh my god. I'm mad now. I am in Oregon. Don't know what state he's in. Or she, maybe. I don't know. I don't expect more than maybe a handful of ladies watch my channel. Oh, wait, actually. Yeah, the person that was watching last week was on like their mom's account or something, but in any case. I saw your name and I was like, wait, is that the same person? No, it's not. Technician. That's kind of a hilarious spelling. Alright, so let's see what's going on here. so we got dirt patch, no slide, okay. Okay, so we want to go early down, early left, nice tight line down. Okay, so we want to go back up there. Where's the bug slide? North Carolina. You know, I have been to North Carolina once, and I sat in the corner of the airport with my back to the wall and all of my possessions as close as I could possibly get them, praying that my plane showed up early. And I don't mean that as like anything offensive, but just the airport was scary, and I was like 17. Alabama. I got some friends in Alabama. In fact, I got a couple of friends in Alabama. My Twitch mod is from Alabama. Is this the bug slide spot? Where's the bug slide spot? Oh, that's the bug slide spot. To right, yeah. Go straight at the start. Okay. Start through the bars. Ah. I see. We go this way. We jump. Is this the... And then you jump there. Straight up. And then... Okay. Crazy North Carolina experience. Yeah. No, I mean, I've heard good things about North Carolina from people that live there, but yeah, for me, I was truly terrified for my virginity, and I mean that. It was like just a bunch of freaking sweaty businessmen with like beady dead eyes and like, oh, there's a booster right there. Interesting. Okay. I see that now. You said the booster, but I totally missed that. So there's a... Damn. So you go slightly left and then back to the right. Holy cow. That really didn't do much. Yeah, okay. Yeah, through the red booster. That yellow booster is not really worth my time because it puts me way out of line. So if I can get this line, I could probably do the bug slide. But I just gotta get the line. Okay. Ah, so alright. So you want to turn early off of that platform. That's probably the hard part, I'm thinking. So you go, whoop. Yep. So yeah, you gotta turn early off of that platform. No, I'm on Xbox. You gotta turn early off of that platform, and you're gonna need the boost. So you're gonna have to exit your bug slide at like the perfect moment. Almost. Damn. I almost had that. So yeah, you actually don't want to air brake. You want to land a little bit sideways. It's a weird mechanic, but it actually helps to set up the bug slide. Damn, that was too much. Maybe you do want to air brake a little bit. Or maybe it has to do with the angle you come off of that. But I would wager you probably don't want to air brake. Because you want your tires to, yeah, you do want to air brake, but you want to air brake like just a second or two before you hit the ground. Like you don't want to air brake early because you need that angle. I'll get this. Okay. Third platform. Nope. So we want to go early on the third platform. Early. A little wide, but we go. Yeah, okay. Too early, so you want to aim for the left side down below. I just had nowhere enough speed to get into the finish. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. So you got to get the boost off of it. So there's a trick to bug sliding that is definitely like a pro thing, and it requires pretty much pixel perfect timing. So you're gonna notice when you're bug sliding, the car is gonna do kind of like this shaky thing. You want to release the brake and straighten out just as the car comes this direction, like when it's going away from you. So your car's gonna like, okay, this is gonna be hard to describe. So you're turning this way, right? And you're bug sliding like this. As soon as your car goes out is when you want, like, it's gonna do it really fast. It's gonna do it 3 or 4 times in a second. Like, it's gonna do like almost at the same speed as the frame rate, kind of. It's really fast, but you'll notice how it does kind of a shaky thing. And right as it finishes that shake, right as it starts to straighten out, you want to follow that. Release the brake and turn back to straighten yourself out. Right at that perfect moment. If you want a deer sim, oh my god. Goat Simulator wasn't enough? Come on, people! If you want a good deer game, check out Deer God, or The Deer God, I think it's called. It's like this old indie game. It's like a side scroller pixel game. It's a lot of fun though. I enjoyed the shit out of it. It's kind of weird. Takes a minute to get into, but I highly recommend it. Okay. Nope, that was way late. So we want to go early on that one. Second platform. Oops. Too early. So you want to go on the seam of the second and third platform, I'm thinking, so you can get like the farthest landing onto that platform as possible. I was actually late. Oh, that would have been good, but I didn't turn. Damn it. Yeah, this is a tough one. There we go. That's the jump I wanted. And then we go whoop. Ah, too early. Need more speed. So can't land too sideways on that platform. Ah, dang it. Yeah, that's a tough one. Oh, shit. Damn you! No, I'm kidding. Chat, stop distracting me. Chat immediately starts distracting me. Oh, yeah. So you got to go early around that corner because the dirt is going to freaking push you out. So you go. Whoop. Almost! Oh my god, that was so close. Ah, yeah. So the trick there is going to be there's several things to that actually. So you want to land at a slight angle. You want your front tire to touch the ground before the rest of the car. That's going to set you up for the bug slide, for the tightest bug slide. You want to aim out to the left of the where the plastic is, before you go around the corner, and like you want to land out to the left, and you want to aim back as tight to the right as possible. You almost want to touch that wall on the inside, because as soon as you hit the dirt, you're gonna slide out. So you want to stay on that just little tiny strip of sand right there, And the only way that you're going to keep your speed is, as I said, you're going to want to get the boost out of it, and you're going to have to freaking get that like pixel perfect moment there. Just like that. Easy, boy, no problem. So yeah, just do what I just did right there. As intended. That's, I'm pretty sure, the best way to do it. Yeah. Yeah. You want to land way to the left, send it as tight to the right as possible, and stay on that strip of sand. Because if you freaking come off of that strip of sand and hit the dirt, you're going to slide out. Yep. No big deal. Almost like I knew what I was doing. I hope that helps you out, Apollo. If you're even still in chat, it's hilarious. Still only 74 in Oregon. That's crazy. Oh, this one's fun. It's a plastic map. Oh! 16. This game confuses me. I know, right? Yeah. Sometimes the tricks are like the only way to finish it in time, and then other times the tricks seem to waste time. It doesn't even make sense. I mean, you may have done it faster, but I mean, that's how you do the trick. Oh, this is like pro AM. I'm actually really familiar with that. Okay, so you want to go under on the right side, bounce under on the left side. Okay. So we go slightly to the right, slightly to the left, back to the right, under here for speed. Whoops. Okay. I am using action key 3 just in case anybody is wondering. Yeah, I mean the bug slide, your time's faster than mine, that's fair, but to do the bug slide, that's really gonna be the way you're gonna want to do it. You're gonna have to go way wide to the left, like you're gonna want to aim almost like you're shooting for that wall. Just like you saw I did there, I went way wide, like it looked like I was gonna smash into that wall. And then you want to come back in as close to the inner wall as possible and stay on that strip of sand. If you come out of it with the boost, like I was saying, when it's doing that wiggle, if you catch it right as it's straightening out and follow it, then you'll keep basically all of your speed and you'll probably fly right into the finish and you won't even touch the ground. But it's like a pixel perfect thing and it kind of requires a bit of luck. Damn it. You're a god? Oh yeah, I want to go. Okay, so actually, we want to go outside. And then, oh damn it. It forces you back in, so you gotta freaking... Yeah, and then, oop. Oh my god. That was wild. This track is crazy. Go there. Wall ride. Back in. Freaking, oh my god. Wow, 2 seconds, but that was horrible. I got caught up on everything. Far out to the outside wall. Are you saying like at the finish? Because yeah, I see the stuff there, and then there's that, and then you go around to the left. Are you saying because there's that like red booster there? He's the sheep god. Man, you're on a different level right now. That shit's funny. Deer simulator. The things that people entertain themselves with these days. I thought Goat Simulator was a joke for the longest time. Until I like legitimately saw one of my friends playing it. I'm like, are you for real right now? Ah, I see. I see, said the blind man to the guy. Nope, that was bad. Yeah, well, I know what you mean. Yeah, if you stay on the wall and turn into it right, you actually gain a ton of speed, which is a weird mechanic of this game. There's a lot of weird mechanics, interactions with things that don't really seem to make sense, but that's a good one, definitely. Yeah, that gained me quite a bit of time. Appreciate the tip for sure. Yeah. Alright. Well. Deep Sea Treasures. Definitely could grind myself some better scores on a couple of these tracks. Adventureland is a fun one. A transformer and 2 gods and you're a deer. I can't. It is totally Goat Simulator. It's like the Goat Simulator reboot. That's crazy. Anyway, got myself some pretty good scores in Oregon. I could do much better, I would say. This one, you said that you got a 1605? I mean, if I greatly improve my approach, I could probably get closer to that. Did you use the second booster there? Because that might make a difference. Oh, I hit the ceiling! Shitty! Almost got it first freaking try. Oh. Damn. Did that with the normal route. Oh, you the 1605? You did it with the normal route? Like to the finish? What I was asking though is, did you use this booster right here with the uprights at the start? It doesn't really seem to gain much. In fact, it kind of seems like a bad idea. Because it puts you out of position. It does gain a tiny bit of speed. Damn it. I gotta... Damn. I gotta hit it just right. There we go. Nope. Oh my god. It does gain speed, but it's just rough. Whoopsie. Damn. Yeah, that's a rough path. It gains speed, but it requires quite a lot more precision. Okay. Oh my god. Natalie is literally in a different universe right now. That's wild. No, I didn't use that booster, but if you drive it, how you do the first time, and then go in hard right. Yeah. Right, so if you're saying instead of trying for the bug slide, like just go the normal route and finish. That's what you meant, right? If you would like, yeah. It's just the Bloodlust. Well, I guess here, let me type it in chat. I don't know. I mean, that's for Xbox. I think it's the same on Ubisoft. I guess I could go to Ubisoft Connect. So we can, I think we can connect that way if you're on the dirt. A deer with a lightsaber. That's OP. Oh, it's UEG Bloodlust. Holy shit. Wow. That was a long time ago. Yeah, so it's spelled the Bloodlust is spelled the same. It's BL00D1U5T. The B and D are capital. But it's capital UEG, all one word. UEG Bloodlust. Capital BL00 capital D1U5T. And that's for like I said, that's for Ubisoft Connect, and then on Xbox it's just the Bloodlust. Again, spelled with the zeros instead of O's. B capital BL00 capital D1U5T. Oh, 9 years ago. That's funny. I feel like it should be longer than that, actually. Okay, so go down the dirt. Ah, I see. Go down the dirt and go this way. Yeah. What? Wow. Okay. Interesting. Go this way. Wow. Caught my tire on the corner. What the what is that? That's wild, dude. Is that the path you're talking about? That can't be the path you're talking about. That's crazy. I feel like that could in some way be faster though, maybe. Jesus. Yeah, no, the bug slide definitely is faster than that. Oh, dang it. If I had straightened out just like a pixel sooner. Damn it. Like, you gotta catch it just right. Ooh, barely made that jump. Not gonna make this one. Oh my god. Woo! Oh, the speed. Ah, I need to straighten out sooner. Ah. Sweet. Yeah, no, for sure. I play, actually, Trackmania pretty regularly when I'm not on stream. So, there's a good chance that you might catch me randomly. Pretty much on any day of the week, actually. It's like my palate cleanser. Like, when I need some endorphins, you know, I'm like, alright, I'm gonna go play some freaking Trackmania. And I'm pissed off at, you know, like, Splitgate or freaking Space Marine or something. I'm like, fuck you! And then I go play Trackmania. It's my... whenever I need some endorphins. Eh, 0.33, 0.033 even. Not, I haven't even broken the 17-second barrier. You're at 16:05? Man, whatever you did, crazy. So if you go just up around the corner, is that what you're saying? I mean, I don't know. Well, got myself a little bit of a better position on that one. Yeah, week 36 is pretty fun. They're actually starting to come out with a lot more entertaining tracks. There was a long period there where they just had a bunch of crap and it was not very entertaining. But that's probably going to do it for the Trackmania content today. I greatly appreciate everybody that was here for the Trackmania and gave me the tips. I will be online probably most of the day, so if you're still interested in playing some more, then definitely stick around. Hit me up in like an hour or so, because like I said, I had some news that I really want to get into here. It is actually some pretty fascinating stuff that we have currently going on. I'm going to change my stream info to just chatting. Or, well, actually, and then we go. So, if you are unaware, there is an interesting object that has entered our solar system recently. And I do mean interesting object. This is going to be different than my regular content for sure. I am on the Series X. Yeah, I am on the Series X. Yes, indeed. The 576 wants to be friends. I assume that's you. Oh, hello. Friend, a friend, a friend. Wee. Hello, hello. All right, so as I was saying, this is going to be slightly different than the typical content that you're going to see on my channel, but this is just something that was too fascinating and too relevant to pass up. Even if you are not a total nerd and you're not interested in space content, this is something that pretty much will be affecting everybody. So last time we had an interstellar object enter the solar system that was Oumuamua, and there was a lot of speculation around that. Still not really any kind of definitive answers as to what that floating nondescript turd was that passed through our solar system, but there's still a lot of like I said, speculations really more or less that there is possibly some intelligence behind it. Now, the first video I'm going to go over today is going to be artificial light detected on 3i Atlas. And if you don't know what that is, 3i Atlas stands for the third interstellar object detected by the Atlas satellite telescope. And what is very interesting about this object is the fact that it is putting off quite a lot of light. In fact, enough light that it has put the scientific community kind of into a buzz over what could potentially be causing that light, where it could be coming from, if it might possibly be artificial. So the first video we're going to look at is by the Angry Astronaut. He's kind of a little bit more of a radical kind of voice in the scientific community, at least to some people. He definitely speaks truth and he talks about scientific facts and things that are going on in the community. He doesn't always go into like aliens or stuff like that, but he definitely is one that talks more about kind of the technically fringe and less uh, the less common, less mainstream kind of stuff. So let's hop into it here. Very interesting video. Probably gonna get an ad. We got an ad. Be sure to give the Angry Astronaut a follow.
Explosive outgassing.
Starting out in the middle of the video here. Now, before we get into this video, I want to send a challenge to my viewers. I have been watching this guy for literally 2 years, okay? And I have not seen him blink one time. If you watch this guy's videos and you can capture a single screenshot of this guy blinking, I swear he like edits them out or something, or maybe he's just a Cylon, I don't know. But if you can catch a screenshot of this guy blinking, send it to me and I will pay you money. Now, let's get into the video.
Good afternoon, alien enthusiasts. In spite of what some of you may be thinking right now, I have not sunk to extreme clickbaity titles. Not in the least with this particular topic.
It is kind of clickbait.
As shocked as I was to learn this news, it is based on scientific data. Be rest assured, I'm going to prove that to you in this video. But let's go ahead and continue with the topic. One of the biggest challenges that we've had with 3i Atlas is the fact that it's still so far away that even with our best telescopes, such as the Hubble, we can only get a vague idea as to what this object looks like because we only get a resolution of a few arc seconds on the entire object, both whatever the halo is that surrounds it.
So there's going to be a lot of terminology here that most people aren't going to probably understand. What they mean by arc seconds is the amount of light that is absorbed in a certain period of time when viewing the object. It's hard to explain, but we'll just That's the easiest way to
and
put it.
its nucleus. And with so little information, it's very difficult to determine exactly what it might be, in spite of the fact that astronomers seem 100% convinced that it's a comet, and woe betide anybody who says anything different. That being the case, though, there is one thing that has been very strange about 3I Atlas, something that was recognized right from the start. How can it possibly be so bright? The latest observed magnitude as of right now for 3I Atlas is 16.4 at a distance of about 400 million kilometers from Earth.
So, the reason that we're talking about this is because this is literally a historic discovery. We in recorded history have only ever had 3 interstellar objects pass through our solar system that we know of. One of them was a comet. I can't remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of it. Second one was Oumuamua, which sent the scientific community into a stir. And again, like I was saying, we still don't really know what was up with Oumuamua. If it was just a fragment of rock, it was a very odd fragment of rock. This one, however, is very interesting because it is probably about 5 kilometers wide, or it's speculated to be about that wide, but it's giving off a halo or a coma of dust that's twice the size of Earth. And it's also producing more light than any other known object in space, at least of its size. So there's a ton of questions about that, and it seems to be acting somewhat intelligently, and there are some explanations for that. Again, this is the first video that we're looking at. I'm going to be looking at another video after this, by Stefan Burns. Stefan Burns is an astrophysicist, and he talks about space weather and stuff that's going on. But like in our solar system, things that are relevant to us, like solar flares and like how that's going to affect our atmosphere and weather patterns and stuff like that. So Stefan Burns is definitely a much more grounded individual on these kind of topics. But he still has also himself some very interesting questions. So I think it's worth looking into, and the effects that it could have on our solar system apply to, like I said, more than just nerds. When Oumuamua past perihelion from Earth, which is opposite side of the sun from us, it caused all kinds of solar flares and plasma bursts and things that affected us for months afterwards. And this is a much larger object, a much more seemingly powerful object, and is going to be passing about the same distance away. And we've already been having some radical space weather in the last few months. Lots of solar flares. I'm sure you've probably noticed your internet hasn't been running as well as usual lately. Um, there's reasons for that. So yeah, we're gonna keep getting into this because it is very interesting, I think.
That is not terribly bright. There are certainly other comets that have been brighter, but only gigantic comets. If we're talking about comets that are relatively small, the sorts of comets that we would expect to encounter with interstellar objects, this is anomalous. This is strangely bright. Once again, astronomers have struggled to explain why this is. But now we have a possible explanation. The 3I Atlas might be generating its own light, artificial light, and amazingly, it's backed up by the data.
Now, when he says it's backed up by the data, um, there's multiple data sets. And the data that he's talking about, of course, is theorized data. Um, Now, the theory is based on, yeah, that's it. It's something that has been affecting everybody. Uh, I might play Cup of the Day. I have never actually done a Cup of the Day. When is it? When is the next one? Is it like in an hour or so? In any case, when he says that it's backed up by the data, it is backed up by the data. There is uh things that we know about how astronomical objects produce light, such as like friction, radioactivity, plasma, which is, the fourth state of matter. Not exactly gas, not exactly liquid, but gas in kind of a liquid sort of state. And these are all things that affect how much light is put off, but that typically has to do with the mass of the object. The more massive the object is, the more energy that it's capable of putting off, which obviously makes sense. And typically, it's not even the energy of the thing itself that's causing the light, it is rather reflections on the surface. And depending on the substrate on the surface or the material that it's made of, you'd get a higher reflection or a lower reflection. Things like iron and nickel are more reflective than like granite or volcanic rock. They're going to absorb more light, so you're not going to see them as well. But we have fairly consistent models for a lot of how things work, how light is produced by objects, how friction produces light, how much friction it takes to produce light, and the value of light that we're going to see from a certain distance. This object is putting off like immensely more light than anything its size should be putting off. The material that it's made of, we're not exactly sure what material it's made of, but regardless, it doesn't have a large enough surface to be reflecting as much as it is. And the amount of off-gassing that is coming from it seems to be anomalous. Um, there's a lot of things that converge here to make it seem enigmatic in a lot of ways. And though it is backed up by the data, there's still a lot of theories and speculation that go into that. And it's not data that's like set in stone. There's definitely still a lot of discussion to be had. But
Good
he makes a lot of
afternoon,
good points
alien
here.
enthusiasts, and welcome to another Angry Alien Bulletin. I really did not
Seriously,
expect to
watch
be
this guy.
doing another video about 3i Atlas this soon,
Hour
but
and 20 minutes.
this is breaking news in a big way. Really, I should have released a video about this yesterday because I knew about it more than
I'm serious. This
24
guy never
hours
blinks.
ago, but I really wanted to put something out, was a little bit more familiar to my spaceflight fans, folks who've been watching my channel for a long time, and man, was that
And
a
he usually
mistake.
sets at an
Something
angle
about
like this, so
Elon Musk's plans to go to Mars,
and it's really
his
creepy.
objectives of sending a human-rated mission in the next
That's why I
few
love his
years.
channel.
Nobody wants to hear about that anymore, it seems, at least as far as my subscribers are concerned. And I'll be talking a little bit more about what that means for the channel at the end of the video. So let's go ahead and proceed to this particular topic. 3i Atlas, again, in the news in a big way. Most astronomers are absolutely enraged that Avi Loeb is bringing up the unconventional, sort of exotic possibilities for this object to explain why it is the way it is. And the latest one, well, that is the most dramatic of all. Once again, as I said at the beginning of this video, this is not some sort of clickbaity thing saying that we detected lights on Proxima B and all of these other ridiculous headlines that we've seen on YouTube in the past. This is something that is actually backed up by observational data. And that is something to do with the brightness of this object. That is what has always been so confusing about 3i Atlas. How is it as bright as it is? As I have mentioned in previous videos, we are talking about an object that's at least 200 times brighter than the interstellar comet 2I Borisov.
Okay, so Uh, when he says 200 times brighter, again, that is relative to a lot of factors. Um, the mass of the object, of course, that's going to determine the amount of surface that it has. So it's going to give it more. If it's a larger object, it's going to be able to reflect more. Again, like a material like granite is going to be less reflective than something like nickel or iron. Um, so the 2i um, the previous object, which is better known as Oumuamua, basically gave off like no light. In fact, it was very hard for us to locate it, and when it was finally located, it was difficult to track. Um, and it was made from a material again that we don't really know. The thing about it is it's an object in space, it's moving very quickly. We are moving very quickly through space relative to everything else. And so the fact that these objects pass through so close and at just the right angle, like this visualization that he's showing here of Oumuamua, or not Oumuamua, but 3i Atlas, is of it passing by Jupiter, but that's actually kind of in reverse. The way that it's coming through the solar system is from west to east, or no, from east to west in perihelion orbit, and it's going to be passing within less than, like, I think it's going to be passing within less than an astronomical unit from three different planets. It's going to be passing by Mars, and when it passes by Mars, it's actually going to be passing by Mars almost as close as its own moon. It's going to be passing by Venus, and it's going to be passing by Jupiter. And when it passes by Jupiter, it's going to be passing by Jupiter actually in like April of 2026. So it's going to be in our solar system for a long time, like months, almost a year, in fact. And the whole time that it's there, it's going to be having gravitational effects, magnetic effects, and stuff on our solar system. Um, but it is passing perihelion, so that means that it's going to be on the opposite side of the sun from Earth. And typically, when things pass perihelion, in fact, at one point, it's going to be in a perfect line uh, on the opposite side of Earth or the sun from us. And typically, when things like that happen, it causes all kinds of, like I said, gravitational effects, geomagnetic effects. We're going to have increased solar activity, solar flares, things like that, to be expected. He is a very passionate man, you could say.
Was at the same distance. As a matter of fact, we didn't even know 2i Borisov was there when it was that far away because it was just much, much dimmer. So, of course, the theories have varied far and wide. Avi Loeb talks about it being a much bigger object. Astronomers just say that it's a much smaller object that's producing an enormous amount of dust. Dust, of course, being the catch-all explanation for.
Yeah, and he makes a great point here because dust is literally just a generic term for particles in space. It could be literally anything. And sure, you could say it's dust, but it is still a very small object and is not producing a lot of gas. And so therefore it's not, it doesn't seem to be internally active. Like it doesn't seem to be producing a lot of heat or anything like that. Most comets and whatnot are actually frozen. So it's not really producing a lot of heat, and it's not a very massive object. So the amount of gas that it's putting off, again, like I said, it is the object itself, AI or 3i Atlas, is probably at its maximum estimated to be about 5 kilometers across. So about 3.5 miles. Uh, at its smallest, it's estimated to be about 320 meters across. So there is a bit of debate there on how big it is. Regardless, an object of that size is not going to be putting off a gas cloud or a dust cloud that is twice the radius of Earth. That is literally what we're looking at right now. So it's a very strange object, and there's some interesting things going on here. Let's let the man speak.
Everything we don't understand in the universe when it comes to alien megastructures, all sorts of things that we see in the cosmos. Dust is the explanation that astronomers love to present. And if you don't agree with the dust explanation, then you're a nut job and you don't deserve to have your papers published. But in any event, all of that having been said, even that explanation doesn't make any sense, because how is an object like 3I Atlas producing this much dust without any detectable outgassing? Because the spectrographic analyses that have been done of this object thus far has indicated no gas whatsoever.
So what he's just saying there is, as I was mentioning a moment ago, it is not producing any gas. So for it to be off gassing would mean that it would have to be producing gas, or that there would have to be gas inside the object that is being released. And that would explain the dust cloud, but the lack of gas makes the dust cloud even that much more anomalous. And it does not have any apparent tail. You can see very clearly right there, other side. You can see very clearly right there that it does not have a tail. And from every angle that we've taken of, or every angle that we've gotten a picture of it, it does not appear to have a tail. And the gas cloud is very uniform around it. It almost seems artificial in a way. But again, there is some explanation for that. Plasma reacts in somewhat of an unexplainable way, almost as if it itself is alive, and there's been a lot of speculation about that. But we'll get into that later.
You can't have explosive outgassing with lots and lots of dust without also having a lot of gas mixed in with that outgassing. And yet we've seen no evidence of that whatsoever. The only way that an object could produce this much dust without outgassing is if it were huge, again, about 20 kilometers in diameter, which once again makes it a very,
which it is
very
less than
unusual
a quarter of
object.
that size.
Something this big should not be encountering our.
Even at its highest estimate, it is not even a quarter of that size. So it should not possibly be putting off this much gas. However, and I don't want to spoil it, but this is something we'll get into a little bit later with Stefan Burns. He makes the point that as objects get closer to the sun, of course, they're going to heat up, which is going to cause them to break up slightly. They're going to release more dust and gas, and that dust and gas is going to become ionized, which then causes it to become plasma, which can explain some of these things, but I still feel like there would have to be some absolutely, and I guess it's hilarious to say it this way, but there would have to be some astronomical factors to make that happen.
Solar system very often. We're talking maybe once every 50,000 years. So either we got very, very lucky, or that's just not the explanation we'd be looking towards. So if it's not a bright dust cloud and it's not an enormous object, then what could possibly be creating this much light? Well, that's where the artificial light explanation comes from. The 3I Atlas might be generating its own light, and for an object of this size, an artificial explanation is about the only one we've got. And
please,
by the way, stay
tuned
Voodoo to the end, where I'm going to give my own interpretation of what 3I Atlas might be from an artificial perspective. But let's go ahead and turn to Avi Loeb, the only guy who tends to talk about these sorts of topics, to see what he thinks about this latest data. One thing about this object, by the way, as I mentioned before, is it's very, very difficult to get any sort of good image on this object at this kind of distance. If, however, we utilize the cameras on the Juno spacecraft, if it were to be diverted towards 3I Atlas, even if it only had enough fuel to get within 25 million kilometers from 3I Atlas, it could get a much better image of this object. The other alternative would be to turn the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter towards 3I Atlas and utilize the high-rise camera on this orbiter.
So it wouldn't make sense at this point to use Juno, because it's literally on the opposite side of the solar system from where 3I Atlas is at. Like, it's entering, as I said, it's entering from east to west, heliocentric, um, which as far as he the sun has its own magnetic north, and so based on the sun's magnetic pole, it is coming from east to west. And so it is going to be passing by Mars first. And like I said, it's going to be passing by Mars so close that it's actually going to be like passing almost within the distance of its own moon. So that's that would make a great opportunity for them to use the Mars reconnaissance uh, orbiter to capture an image of it. It wouldn't make sense to use Juno at this time because it's not going to be passing Jupiter until like March or April of 2026. So it's going to be a ways out until it gets there. It would not make sense to use Juno at this point, but it sounds like NASA and the official space community or industry has opted to not observe it at all. Besides the few images that we already have of it, basically everything that we have beyond that point, or everything that's planned into the future as far as observation of this object is concerned, is all based on calculations and like simulations and models and stuff like that. There is no plan to actually observe this object like close up, which seems a little fishy to me. Um, why would we not want to get an image of it, even if we don't think it's literally anything? It's a random interstellar space rock that is unlike anything we've ever seen before. There's no reason not to observe it unless there's something there that we don't want to be made public. And it's speculation or whatever, aliens, but that's what I think.
If we were to do that, we could also get a much better image of this object. However, at this time, NASA still is not aggressively exploring these possibilities. That being the case, then we have to go with what we've got. And one thing that we do have is an analysis of the brightness profile of the glow of 3I Atlas. And have a look at this figure, something that's actually a little difficult to interpret, and I have a hard time interpreting it also. But the one thing to keep in mind is how steep the slope is. It is a projected power law slope of -3, which implies a three-dimensional emissivity profile with a radial power law slope of -4. Now, what all that garbage means is that this object has a much steeper light curve than we have observed in natural comets. So together with a colleague named Eric Quito, Avi Loeb realized that the observed slope of -4 is consistent with an alternative model in which the dust outflow around 3I Atlas is being illuminated by a central source. In other words,
one thing that it said there, if you didn't take a moment to, or if you didn't get the chance to read that,
with a radial power,
is that Surface brightness as a function of the angular distance from the nucleus of 3I Atlas in the Hubble Space Telescope imagery. Uh, the brightness was averaged over a 0.8-second arc-second wide strip along the axis connecting 3I Atlas to the sun. And what that means is that it is running perpendicular to the sun. So from this angle where they're taking this picture is from like basically from a 90-degree angle of the sun, which means that this is light that is coming directly from the object, not light that's being reflected from the sun. If it was in strip along the axis connecting through Atlas to sun, if it was like like a direct line, or if we were in looking at it in reverse or whatever, then we would be getting a reflection from the sun. But what is being described here is from a 90-degree angle. We're looking at the object without the reflection from the sun, meaning that this light curve is coming from the object itself, which is pretty unexplainable.
Law slope of negative, in which the dust outflow around 3I Atlas is being illuminated by a central source. In other words, this object is creating its own light, not reflected light, light being generated by the object itself. This model naturally accounts for the steep brightness profile, since the outflow density scope of -2 is accompanied by the radial decline of the illuminating radiation flux, with an additionally declining slope of -2. In other words, just a very, very steep slope, which suggests a light source at the center of the cloud.
Okay, so scientific language is always really hard to track. Basically, what he just said right there is that it is a very sharp decline in brightness, that it is not just a gradual, a gradual loss of light, that it is a sharp decline in brightness, like turning a light on or off, like flipping a light switch, rather than lighting a match. Because the match might take a moment to start burning before it reaches its peak brightness, where when you hit the light switch, it's like that. So that's the difference that he's talking about.
If 3I Atlas generates its own light, then it could be much smaller than expected from a model that reflects sunlight. The reflection model requires a diameter of up to 20 kilometers, which is untenable given that the limited reservoir of rocky material in interstellar space can only deliver a giant rock once every 10,000 years or so. And given how unusual those sorts of encounters are, the fact that this object is also coming at the solar system on the plane of the ecliptic, coming close to 3 different planets in the same journey. We've talked about these things before. All of these things combined make
it seems very reminiscent of 2I or Oumuamua. The fact that it is passing through at just the right angular velocity with just the perfect amount of delta V to make a run-in with a couple of planets, but not quite close enough to make contact with Earth, almost as if it was intentional.
For an extremely unlikely natural object. But Avilob did some number crunching to determine what sort of luminosity 3I Atlas needs to be generating in order to produce the observed luminosity. First of all, he calculated that the luminosity of 3I Atlas needs to be on the order of 10 gigawatts worth of light energy. That's enough energy to be generated by about 10 nuclear reactors or so, a colossal amount of power. Secondly,
another thing, as he mentioned there, that would be like equal to 10 nuclear reactors, which we have a few of those on the planet. We're very familiar with the output that they have capable. But one thing that he doesn't mention here is that radioactive material in space is actually incredibly rare. If it's not like inside of a star or a supernova or like the core or the nucleus of it, then you're not really going to find that like just drifting out in space. Like this object would literally have to be like the core of a sun that somehow was like set adrift, but also maintained its energy without the gravitational effects. Like it's just like it's mind blowing. You just can't put all those things together and
Realize
make
that
it
the
make
steep
sense.
brightness profile around 3I Atlas implies that the nucleus dominates the observed light. Again, that corresponds to the nucleus actually generating the light. This must hold irrespective of the origin of the light. In other words, the nucleus dominates over the emission from the glow around it. The illumination by sunlight cannot explain this steep profile of scattered light. Sunlight would dominate the illumination in this model because a rocky nucleus would reflect only a small fraction of the solar intensity from a much smaller area than the 10,000 kilometer region resolved in the Hubble Space Telescope.
Again, like I was saying earlier, it would have to be some kind of ultra rare material, some kind of mineral that we just don't see collected very often in one place like this. And like every seemingly logical explanation comes with more catches and more reasoning and more calculations or uh uh what's the word I'm looking for, graces. Like you have to give it more grace. Like, oh well, if like all these things lined up, then that would just it would work perfectly. But there is a very well-known concept that has become a lot more popular and well-known recently, known as Occam's razor, which states that usually the most obvious and reasonable explanation is the correct explanation. And when it comes down to it, there is a lot more reasoning and mental gymnastics that has to be done to explain scientifically why this thing is the way that it is than for it to just be artificial or intelligent life, which again, aliens, but we don't really
Image.
know.
Another possibility for the steep brightness profile is that the scattering halo is made of icy particles that get evaporated as they move towards the sun from the warm sun-facing side of 3I Atlas. This would explain why there's no tail of these scattering particles, but it's unclear as to whether this would lead to the observed brightness profile, and it's very unlike a comet, even if it is natural. Now, the simplest interpretation, if I can use Occam's razor against the skeptics for a change, is that the nucleus of 3I Atlas is actually producing most of the light. It was calculated that the nucleus cannot be a thermal emitter with an effective surface temperature below 1000 degrees Kelvin, or else its peak emission wavelength would have been longer than 3 micrometers with an exponential cutoff at shorter wavelengths, which is incompatible.
So again, what he's saying there to cut through the scientific mumbo jumbo is that in order for this object to be producing as much light as we are observing it doing, it would have to be like the nucleus of a sun. Like it would have to be a super massive radioactive object to be producing the kind of light that it's producing naturally. And it would be easier to explain if, as we were saying earlier, if it was just a reflection off the surface rather than actually the object itself producing the light. But from every observation that we have, it seems very much like the object itself is producing the light without heat, without um, obvious radioactive output. Like we're not really detecting it. We would be able to be like detecting the radioactive energy that's coming off of it. We would be able to see it in infrared. Like there's a lot of ways that we would be able to explain that, and none of those markers are there. Can you uh go back through the history and Exnay that the previous botter, please. Thank you. Safe one. But we are watching the Angry Astronaut talking about Three Eye Atlas, a very interesting object that is currently passing through our solar system.
Compatible with the data. At higher effective temperatures, the required luminosity of 3I Atlas can be obtained from a source diameter which is smaller than 100 meters. A compact, bright emitter would make 3I Atlas of comparable size to the previous interstellar objects such as Oumuamua or 2I Borisov, making more sense in the 20-kilometer size inferred in the model where it reflects sunlight.
Right, yeah. 2I Borisov, I couldn't remember it. It was Oumuamua was detected by the Russian space program. And the name comes from I want to say like South African or something.
But what could constitute this light source? First of all, Avi calculated that a primordial black hole with a Hawking temperature of 1,000 degrees Kelvin would produce only 20 nanowatts of power, clearly insufficient to power this light source. A natural nuclear source could be a rare fragment from the core of a nearby supernova that is rich in radioactive material. This possibility is highly unlikely, though, given the scarce reservoir of radioactive elements in interstellar space. Alternatively, 3I Atlas could be a spacecraft powered by nuclear energy, and the dust emitted from its frontal surface might be from dirt that is accumulated on its surface during interstellar travel. Dr. Loeb also explored the possibility of this object traveling so fast through this dust cloud, through all of the extra dust that seems to exist in the medium around the object, that friction might actually be creating the light. But that seems
This guy's not going to get into that much. This guy's more like internet tabloids, YouTube tabloids. He's not like he definitely he talks about real science and he backs up 90% of what he talks about, but he also gets into more of the fringe concepts than a lot of the mainstream scientists do. But the next person that we're going to be looking at definitely gets more into the scientific facts of the matter. And he kind of almost leaves more questions than answers. And he even himself says a lot of things that are all like, like there's scientific explanations for this, but it could also just be aliens. Like
to be ruled out. We can't imagine an interplanetary environment where there is that much dust to create that much friction. Meaning, once again, the simplest explanation is that this is an artificial object. It's difficult to even imagine a natural object this small that can generate this much light on its own. And of course, the artificial explanation would also coincide with the other strange things that we have noticed about this object's trajectory. The fact that it happens to be approaching our solar system on the plane of the ecliptic, that it happens to be passing less than 1 astronomical unit.
So it is passing on the plane of the ecliptic, but it has about a 2-degree eccentricity, which means that it is slightly elevated from the orbital plane. However, there again, that makes it seem even somewhat more suspicious, because the fact that puts it in literal perfect alignment to be on the opposite side of the sun, perihelion, from us at its closest pass through the solar system, which would make it near impossible for us to observe it. And there's a lot of things about this interaction that is having with our solar system that seem unnatural, unexplainable, and should only be possible through like calculated decision making or whatever. Like it just doesn't seem natural. It seems very much artificial. and for it to be passing perfectly on the opposite side of Earth from us seems somewhat intentional. And it's taking a very similar path to what Oumuamua did, um, though in a different location. But it's just the interactions are just too hard to just explain away.
Away from Mars, together with Venus and Jupiter. As a matter of fact, this object is passing much less than 1 astronomical unit away from Mars and Jupiter, so close in fact that it could easily dispatch interplanetary probes to all 3 of these destinations, utilizing objects as simple as human-made
And so the image for 3i Atlas is what looks like like kind of like a little arrow or something. It's supposed to be this is an official tracking site. I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but it's supposed to be representative of a comet. That's the image that they use for a comet as it goes around our solar system. But it's not a comet, and we have more evidence of it not being a comet than we do for it being a comet. But every official chart is calling it a comet, which is very much misleading.
Continental ballistic missiles. Really wouldn't need a lot of Delta V to carry out an intercept of all 3 of these planets if 3i Atlas were the mothership. And then, of course, finally, this object is passing on the opposite side of the sun from where Earth will be during its closest approach, making human observation of this object that much more difficult. Again, possibly by design.
It's the new tax law. Huge tax breaks for billionaires.
Wow, I gotta wait 40 seconds?
Kicking almost 17 million Americans off health
That's
insurance.
wild.
And jacking up premiums
so like I
for
can't
everyone.
I can't even skip it.
Is fighting back.
I just gotta let
it
run.
Working people who deserve a tax cut. Billionaires should pay their fair share so we can protect
Oh my
healthcare
God.
and lower costs.
Instead of ripping away access to healthcare, I'm trying to lower
They-
healthcare
that-
costs.
Tell Janelle Bynum.
They did that on purpose.
Keep fighting to lower costs.
Gatorade Zero powders.
Oh
the
my
#1
God.
proven
I had to
electrolyte
watch the
blend
whole
with
thing,
0 sugar.
and like
Is
I
it
had to
in
watch
you?
2 full ads. Are you almost 3? What is
You're busy.
happening?
You have
This
responsibilities.
is crazy.
You also have.
Good God, YouTube.
All right, so this is what Avi Loeb has had to say about 3i Atlas. Just amazing, amazing discovery. Once again, appears to be backed up by the data. But if this object were artificial, then what might it be? And what is this halo, this dust cloud that surrounds it? Avi Loeb has talked about the possibility of it perhaps being matter sprayed out in front of the object to detect
Oh my God. He almost blinked.
halo, this dust cloud that surrounds it. Avi Loeb has talked about the possibility of it perhaps being matter sprayed out in front of the
He almost
object to
blinked.
detect
He
any
almost did
sort
it.
of hazards that might exist out there. Any small objects
God.
that at this speed colliding with 3i Atlas would be utterly devastating. But I have another suggestion.
I think this guy's an
based
alien.
on another astronomical phenomena that we observed.
Like, why else would he be so interested in space, huh? Like, what? Space isn't that relevant to, like, humans. Like, we live on Earth, bro. We don't live in space. Why are you so interested in space and you never blink all the time, huh? Huh? He's an alien. He's got to be an alien. There's no other explanation for it. Occam's razor says he is an alien. Yeah, so he did talk about that a little bit in the beginning. I talked about that too, but they don't intend to. They don't. We have like one observation of it, and all future tracking or whatever is going to be done by modeling and calculations and whatever. Like, it's going to be passing by Mars. They don't plan on sending the Mars reconnaissance orbital after it, or even like they would literally only have to turn it like 130 degrees to get a like perfect image of it, and they're not even going to do that. And they have no intention of diverting the Juno probe, even though the Juno probe is like about to die anyway. So like it would be the perfect opportunity to give it like one last hurrah and capture a perfect image of one of the most enigmatic interstellar objects that's ever passed through our freaking solar system, but they literally don't intend to. In fact, they have made clear their intentions not to. Oh yeah. I'm fully with you on that one.
Few years ago that's every bit as mysterious and also involved what astronomers at first thought was dust, but later on figured out that it couldn't possibly be that. Imagine if the rings of Saturn suddenly disappeared.
Yeah, this right here, I didn't know about this. And I mean, I would assume it was definitely by design that I didn't know about this. This is wild.
Astronomers a few years ago witnessed the equivalent around a young sun-like star called TYC 8241-2652. Enormous amounts of dust known to circle the star were suddenly nowhere to be found. Quote, "It's like the classic magician's trick. Now you see it, now you don't. Only in this case, we're talking about enough dust to fill an inner solar system, and it really is gone," according to Carl Mellis of the University of California, San Diego, who led the new study, appearing in the July 5th issue of the journal Nature, but this is back in 2000.
So what he's saying right now is that NASA, some intern or like young scientist, was observing random bits of space and discovered that a large solar object, a new sun, young star, that had a massive dust ring around it, which would be a protoplanetary ring, which is where it's speculated this is where planets come from. You know, it's what builds the star. It's basically how solar systems are formed. And so this protoplanetary ring, this young star, had been tracked for literally decades, like ever since like some of our earliest models in like the like 1920s or even earlier than that, like 1800s or something like that. But sometime between 2008 or between 1983 and 2017 or 2018, this protoplanetary disk completely vanished. The whole thing. And the protoplanetary disk, again, let me remind you, is the mass of dust and gas that becomes the planets that orbit this star. So the amount of dust that's in this protoplanetary disk equals the mass of multiple planets. Literally trillions of tons, tens, hundreds of trillions of tons of matter vanished in like 30 years. And there's no planets. They didn't just appear. Like, they didn't finish forming into their little, snowballs in space and they're now orbiting around that star. No, it's just gone. Gone. And there's no explanation for it. And we've never seen it anywhere else in space. Absolutely mind-blowing.
12, so this study's been around for a while, and it still remains unexplained, by the way. A dusty disk around TYC 8241-2652 was first seen by the NASA Infrared Astronomical Satellite in 1983, and it continued to glow brightly for 25 years. The dust was thought to be due to collisions between forming planets, a natural part of planetary formation. Like Earth, warm dust absorbs the energy of visible starlight and re-radiates that energy as infrared or heat radiation. The first strong indication of the disk's disappearance came from images taken in January of 2010 by NASA's Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer, or WISE. An infrared image obtained at the Gemini telescope in Chile on May the 1st, 2012 confirmed that the dust had now been gone for 2.5 years. Quote, "Nothing like this has..."
These are obviously artist depictions, but that's supposed to be like actual images before and after of this celestial body, and there's just nothing there. one young planet and like 12 AU worth of empty space. Unexplainable.
Ever been seen in the many hundreds of stars that astronomers have studied for dust rings, according to the co-author Ben Zuckerman of UCLA. This disappearance is remarkably fast even on a human timescale, much less on an astronomical scale. The dust disappearance at TYC 8241265 was so bizarre and so quick, initially I figured that our observations must simply be wrong in some strange way. Bizarre natural explanations such as a black hole moving through the system, gobbling up all the dust in the process, were discarded when no evidence of any black hole in the vicinity was found. A black hole devouring that much matter would have given off a lot of visible light for years after the encounter, and there was no evidence of that at all.
Just based on the mass of missing matter, like it would create so much energy that black hole would be glowing like a sun, basically, as it's just floating through space. Or, well, really, I kind of almost feel like black holes in a way are maybe stationary and everything else is just floating around them. Unrelated.
Trillions of tons of dust, many trillions of tons, suddenly vanished over the course of just a few decades. So since no natural explanations were ever found, what might have been an artificial explanation? Well, I postulated that perhaps a large number of nanomachines bent on devouring matter and converting it into perhaps usable fuel or some other material being used by a machine civilization seeking to grow, building more duplicates of itself, or some other kind of application for this matter might.
Now that seems absolutely crazy, kooky, mind-blowing, like horse shit. Like, no way. Okay, yeah, there's some artificial robot species and they're devouring matter and transverting that or whatever into freaking fuel. But that is like actual speculations from the official scientific community. Now as I said, we're going to look at somebody a little more grounded after this, and he actually makes very similar postulations, and it's kind of almost too much to take in. But the idea that this object is putting off that much gas or matter doesn't really make a ton of sense, because it's not massive enough to be off gassing the way that it is. Um, and the amount of light that it is producing is equivalent to like multiple nuclear reactors. And it would make more sense if the gas that's around or the matter that's around it is not matter coming off of the object, but maybe matter being sucked into the object. It's like being condensed. Like maybe there's this cloud of nanites or something that are just collecting matter in space as it's floating by. And it's kind of freaking crazy, but there is real chatter about that. There's actual speculation that could be one of the possibilities. How advanced would a civilization have to be to absorb all that matter that fast? Like Dyson sphere level? Like a freaking stage 2 or stage 3, probably stage 3. Yeah, they would have to be like a inner solar or maybe even like galactic scale. Just to, I mean, like to do that, they wouldn't have to be that advanced of a civilization, but to do it in that amount of time, yeah, they would have to be like a late stage type 2 or even a type 3 civilization for sure.
move through the solar system, devouring all of this dust as it passed through. And if 3I Atlas is a nuclear-powered mothership of some kind, perhaps what we are observing is a cloud of nanomachines moving in front of the object, consuming whatever interplanetary matter it can find, and then bringing that matter back to the ship for conversion into usable fuel. Or, given the fact that interplanetary dust tends to be made up of useful materials such as silicates, iron, nickel, and iron sulfur compounds, organic compounds, ices, that sort of thing, the sort of material that might be able to sustain a large population on board this ship. Perhaps these nanomachines are busily gathering these materials before the ship makes its way back into interstellar space, where these materials are far less common. If this is the case, then we must closely watch this object to see whether or not this halo, this cloud of dust or whatever.
We must closely watch this object. I really love the fact that he says that, because it's so true. I mean, it seems like it's such just a generic thing to be saying. Like, it's not like he's really going into kind of any sort of profound rhetoric there, but the fact of the matter is, like, this is a this is a kind of anomaly that we will likely never again encounter. And there's just so many questions and so many postulations within the like official science community, like at NASA, like the idea that that could be like some kind of like cloud of nanites that's freaking collecting matter, that came from NASA. That wasn't just some dude in his freaking garage with a freaking spool of aluminum or something trying to speak to freaking Alpha Centauri. That came from NASA. That was a real theory that came out of NASA, and they're actually rolling with that. And so for us to be having those kinds of speculations, and then to also be actively not observing it, is an op. Like, I can't see that. I can't, there's no other way. Like, that is clearly an op. That is intentional. It's an SCP. I'm not sure what SCP means.
Whatever it is disappears. If it were to vanish after the nanomachines are finished doing their job, assuming that they have a completion date for their job, then that would be a dead giveaway, and exactly like we observed with this mysterious disappearing solar system. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you can see that I definitely wasn't clickbaiting here, guys.
I mean, he was clickbaiting a little bit, let's be honest. But the fact of the matter is, it is huge news, and it's not something that is just a nerd topic. As I said, it may seem a little odd to like the layman or the common man. Like, this isn't something that really matters, like affects you. But the next video that we're going to get into will actually explain how this is more relevant to the average person. So definitely check out the angry astronaut that is artificial light detected on 3I Atlas. Unfortunately, I can't copy paste the link from YouTube because I'm on my Xbox on YouTube. So the next one we're going to be getting into is by Stefan Burns. 3I Atlas is a super intelligence from deep space. That is definitely quite a lot more of a clickbaity title than the previous one. And this is the guy that is astrophysicist for like NASA. So there's some interesting stuff to dive into on this one. Hopefully video loads sometime this week.
Sometimes it feels like the world is telling you to be.
Oh my god, I gotta wait a whole minute for this one?
Too much, not enough.
Good god. They're just getting worse. This is insane, dude. Nobody cares about you. Who even are you? You're not good looking. Oh, it's Pickle Rick. Oh. No, that's Pickle Mick. Yeah, sorry. There's an off-brand. Rick was taken. Yeah, they're annoying for everybody. That's for sure. I don't pay for YouTube Premium, obviously, so. Jesus Christ. What? No way, dude. Wow. Why do I care? Good Christ.
Another image of 3i Atlas thanks to Gemini. And again, we...
Please. Why is it being such a pain in the ass? And watch
The
it
Big
add
Deal
again.
Double Sonic
Son
Smash
of a
with Grillo's
bitch.
Pickles.
Dude, YouTube is really freaking starting to get on, like, the whole internet's nerves. They're fucking themselves over so hard. Fucking garbage, dude. Like, literally? Good Christ. What? And it's like not loading.
Hey everyone, geophysicist
There
Stefan
we go.
Burns here. Currently, there is an interstellar object passing through our solar system, the third ever detected. This is 3i Atlas. 3 stands for the third, I for interstellar. Atlas is the observatory network that first discovered this interstellar visitor. It is sweeping through exactly
Here's
along the ecliptic plane, which is
Map again.
quite bizarre. The past 2 interstellar visitors, Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019, passed through at very high
Oumuamua was the
inclinations and
first.
only interacted as a result with the solar wind heliospheric current sheet for just a short amount of time. But because 3i Atlas is coming in nearly aligned with the ecliptic plane, it's going to be interacting with the inner solar system, the outer solar system, the sun, everything in our solar system electromagnetically for a long period of time. Now, as you see here in this animation.
So, as I said, this guy is much more grounded. He's Stefan Burns. He does things about like space weather, geomagnetic anomalies, solar flares, plasma flares, um, any kind of anomalous activity. He even talks about like uh, activity on Earth, like volcanoes and stuff like that. He's an astrophysicist. Most of his content is basically weather related, so this is actually kind of a little off brand for him. But he's going to be talking more about the implications this will have for our space weather in the coming months and how this could affect Earth and how this is more relevant to, like I said, the kind of common man.
We see 3i Atlas passing by Mars. It has a very close approach to Mars and also Jupiter. Mars is first, that is around October 1st, where it makes its closest approach, and then it'll be very close to Jupiter around March and April of 2026. It makes a superior conjunction with the Sun as viewed from Earth on around.
So as I was saying, and this is a big deal, you can see it is in a perfect alignment between or from Earth to the opposite side at one point there, and that's going to be October 22nd. On October 22nd, we are probably actually 25th, like October 25th, towards the end of October this year. We are going to be getting hit by some major solar activity. That is going to be uh, like solar flares and possible geomagnetic activity that may affect our connections and other things around that time. Also, temperatures may rise, not like to a drastic level, but it may be warmer that week than usual or the typical week of the year. So, it's very interesting.
October 23rd of this year, 2025. And that, in fact, has some very interesting planetary geometry to it. And so there's a lot at play with this interstellar object because of its unique orbital properties. It's also traveling incredibly fast at about 58 kilometers per second. Right now, at perihelion, it'll be traveling its fastest around 68 kilometers per second. This is much faster than the other two interstellar objects which were found. And that high orbital velocity is pretty conclusive proof that it originated from outside of the outer solar system, which we call the Oort cloud. Still hypothetical to some degree, but you don't accelerate things that velocity, we think, from the Oort cloud. Meaning that it was launched from some sort of star and solar system forming region, flung out probably at an early stage. Who knows how long it's been traveling through the galaxy effectively. It has this reddish tint.
So that's tying back into the last point that the previous video was making, is that dust cloud came up missing about 15-ish years ago, or we discovered that it had come up missing about 15 years ago. This object is moving a lot slower than an object would need to be moving to travel that kind of distance, but it is presenting certain types of indicators that make it seem like, as I said, it could be like a solar reactor, like the heart of a sun or something like that. But it's just very anomalous and really hard to explain. Though there's a lot of things that have kind of happened recently that seem to link to each other in a very odd way.
Which is what these sort of objects that enter into interstellar space take on, and it has this very wide plasma coma. So it's surrounded by dust, gas, and plasma as a result of it now being in the solar system. And that's very important because, again, it's interacting with the electrodynamic system of our sun, the heliosphere, and more. So in this video, we're going to discuss what we may expect from 3I Atlas coming into our inner solar system, doing a pretty close swing to the sun in October. I think that's very likely to dramatically ramp up solar activity, and we'll also discuss this from a consciousness perspective, because a lot of people are talking about 3I Atlas right now and discussing that it could be some sort of alien probe, or at least we can't just immediately rule that out. We should send one of our probes from either Mars, which would be MAVEN, or from Jupiter, which would be Juno, to investigate 3I Atlas to get more information. It's a very rare opportunity. But if that passes through the solar system and no alien ships fly out, that does not rule out the fact that it interacted with us in an intelligent way. So let's get right into it. So let's start with its orbit.
I love this guy. So a little background information on this guy. He's a astrophysicist, and he's definitely very much more grounded. But in kind of an odd way. I don't know what it is about. Well, I guess it's kind of just nerdy nature, but I don't know what it is about astronomers and astrophysicists and anybody that really has to do with space. But they're just eccentric people. This guy practices like Reiki and stuff like that, which if you don't know what that is, that's like kind of like a chi thing, like which he does some of that during his live streams. But he talks about very scientific terms and matters sometimes, and then other times he'll talk about like almost near voodoo kind of stuff sometimes. It's a little interesting, but he's a great guy. I love his content.
We see that here with our Sky Live orbital and solar system viewer, and you'll notice
The Sky
that
Live.
3i Atlas here is just very slightly inclined.
In fact, you can check out this map yourself at theskylive.com, and you can see what it looks like. Not all of those objects are available. Obviously, he had to go through like a list and highlight specifically what he wanted, but you can keep track of the solar system and see how like our orbits and stuff are working and where certain alignments are and whatnot if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Or if you just want to, see how the solar system moves, it's kind of an interesting thing to look at sometimes.
From the ecliptic plane of our sun and solar system, going all the way out to Neptune. Now keep in mind that the sun is also moving through space. So technically the sun's going like this and all the planets are kind of wrapping around it. But it's impossible to go through a visualization and actually point at things and explain it as we're doing that. So that actually, in fact, makes it even all the more remarkable that it's doing such a close swing through our ecliptic plane, because that means it effectively has the same velocity traveling as our sun in that direction. So this is pretty interesting. So I have this set for today, August 18th. Let us go forward to the end of September. Right when it makes its closest approach to Mars, right about here, you see that. And so it gets very, very close to Mars, though it's still above it. And then if we go forward to the end of October, right around here is when it is going to be Cazimi from Earth's perspective with the sun. So I think I have to go back. Yeah, I think it's about the 22nd, maybe the 21st of October. Right about here, we see it performing that superior conjunction. So a superior conjunction with something is on the other side of the sun as viewed from Earth, and it's conjuncting it. And this can take...
So why this is important, and this is the part that pertains to all of us. Whenever something passes on the opposite side of us, it causes magnetic interactions between planets or the objects and the sun. Everything's pushing and pulling on each other. And so when we have an object that's on the opposite side of us, that can cause different kinds of weird anomalies to take place on the surface of the sun that can make solar flares burst off, or it can increase, like, cause heightened solar activity. So we can get hit by like plasma flares and stuff like that. It can also cause gravitational anomalies that can do all kinds of weird stuff. Appears to have like some kind of like nucleic activity of its own. It could have some unexplainable or unknown effects that could really change the way that our weather patterns interact and whatnot. So yeah, he's gonna explain it better than I can, of course, but really what you need to know is that this could cause gravitational anomalies and stuff like that that will cause us to be experiencing more solar weather in the coming months.
Place from any planet or point, but we're concerned about Earth here. And so we have Earth there, the sun, and 3i Atlas. You'll notice, again, it's right on that ecliptic plane. And there's actually some really incredible planetary geometry active here. If I zoom this over like so, and we kind of punch out, you'll notice this alignment right there, Earth, Sun, 3i Atlas. There's also a perfect alignment between Earth, Mercury, and Mars, and a similar angle there connecting Earth and Venus. And they almost make a perfect square there as well. So we often see enhancements in solar activity around notable heliospheric planetary geometry like this. And in fact, we saw a ton of activity with Oumuamua as it passed through the inner solar system, interacted with the solar wind, and passed by close to the Earth. Let's check it out. Here we see the perihelion approach of Oumuamua, and this was exact on the 9th of September 2017. So started up here and then swung in, passed through the inner solar system, actually cut within the orbit of Mercury, and then...
So this is kind of hard to visualize, but we're actually looking at this at like kind of a 3/4 angle from the west. And so if we were looking at it flat, like this is the solar system, Oumuamua actually came up like this and then kind of shot back out that way. So we're looking at it, like I said, at kind of a 3/4 angle. So where he's pointing at 9/9/2017 there, if we were looking at it from straight from the top, it would be almost in a direct line with Earth. But because of the way that it passed, it would be hard to visualize like that. It would just be a straight line. So that's why we're looking at it this way.
Swung out. And again, that solar wind current sheet stays in a fairly narrow plane. And so it only cut through that for a little bit. Now,
Yeah,
the
like that.
heliosphere extends outwards further, but that solar wind ballerina skirt is pretty narrow in its height. So it cut through that again, September 9th, 2017. And notice the position here of the Earth, the Sun, and Oumuamua. So Oumuamua effectively was closing in on the western limb of the Sun as viewed from Earth. Because here's Earth, there's the Sun. This right here would be the eastern limb. That would be the western limb solar coordinate system. So pass through like that, slightly beyond the western limb. Let's check out the solar flare activity. Here we have the solar activity in 131 angstroms going from September 4th to the 11th of 2017. Again, that perihelion of Oumuamua, September.
On the bottom right there, that big blue spot on the bottom right, kind of next to his shoulder, pay attention to that. This is what happened when Oumuamua came past us.
September 9th of 2017. Here's the western limb. Look at all these solar flares that are occurring from these sunspot groups here. Specifically,
Boom!
That one, massive X-class flares.
Thankfully,
in fact,
that didn't hit us.
double-digit X-class flares were occurring as Oumuamua passed through the...
And what he means by double-digit X-class is basically like off the charts. Like we only track by like the average, and so if it goes above a certain point or below a certain point, then we just don't really have a reading for it. That burst right there was hundreds of times, maybe even thousands of times more powerful than the average solar flare.
Inner solar system at a very close distance within that orbit of Mercury. Now, it's also important to note the year that this occurred. This is 2017. Solar maximum for solar cycle 24, which was a weak solar cycle, one of the weakest in about 80 years or so, going back to the early 1900s. That was from 2012 to about 2014 or so. And solar minimum started around 2019 and 2020. Actually started probably close to like 2018, 2020. So we were at the late descending.
So this is solar activity. And you're going to see on the chart here where that says September 2017. So if you watch the line, how it kind of does this, like a little mountain there, that is the average solar activity. And every one of the dots is a peak or a valley, so its highest point and its lowest point. If you look at the average there around September from 2020 to 2017 or 2017 to 2020, it's pretty low and there's not really a lot of notable events. But there's that huge spike in 2020 or 2017. That's when Oumuamua passed us.
Phase of solar cycle 24, where this sort of activity is super, super uncommon. Yet we actually had the most powerful solar flares of solar cycle 24 during this perihelion approach of Oumuamua. And you'll notice that they intensified as the sun rotated with that sunspot closer and closer to Oumuamua, because again, it was just slightly further behind this western limb there. So take that as a one-off if you want, but we see a very clear connection between extremely powerful solar activity during a time period where typically you would not get that sort of powerful solar activity with the perihelion approach of this interstellar comet Oumuamua. And now we have 3i Atlas doing something very similar, but it will be along the ecliptic plane and interacting with the electromagnetic dynamics of the inner solar system for a long duration of time. And so
what he's saying there is that it's going to have similar effects to what we're seeing on screen here, but for a longer period of time, because it's going to be making a much more gradual pass, and it's going to be staying in kind of a sustained distance or orbit for a much more uh, consistent period, whereas Oumuamua passed very quickly. It was moving a lot slower, but its closest approach was very quick by comparison. So it's going to have sustained lasting effects. We're going to be seeing a lot of that. Maybe not quite as intense, but it's going to be lasting for quite a while. And another thing I wanted to say is he called Oumuamua an interstellar comet. And bless his little heart, he just said that because it's like that's just the common language. I don't think even he believes it was actually a comet.
I think during its transit, we are going to be having elevated solar activity. And that would extend all the way from October through probably about the end of November of this year, 2025. And here we have a very basic animation showing the heliospheric current sheet for the inner solar system going from 2001 to 2009. So this encompasses part of solar cycle 23 maximum and then goes through that minimum phase. So you'll notice during solar maximum, the heliospheric current sheet has a greater vertical height to it, and so extends higher up, but you'll also notice that eventually it does kind of curve back down. And
so this is really, really hard to understand. But what we're looking at is basically like a wall of solar energy. It's really hard to describe other ways, but this is basically like a condensed like halo or like ring around the sun, where its energy is the strongest, and it's relative to the poles of the sun itself. And we we pass through this 3 to 4 times a month. So it's something that we experience pretty regularly. But it's just hard to visualize, and even looking at it like this is kind of confusing. But basically, it's just like a wave. Just imagine it's where like the highest pressure zone of solar energy exists, and it creates like this almost kind of like blanketed like halo around the sun that just rotates.
And you'll really see that as I go forward here. Now we are later in the solar cycle. You'll notice that the heliospheric current sheet will fold back down. So it doesn't extend infinitely out to space. So there are other electromagnetic dynamics of the solar system at play. The heliosphere does kind of expand out. But in terms of this heliospheric current sheet, you have it just confined to a fairly limited horizon along that ecliptic plane. So you have a comet passing through at a high inclination like this, or maybe it loops back like that. It's only going to interact with it for a short time. But as we saw with 3i Atlas, it's going to be swinging through here for a very long period of time. And it is getting quite close to the sun by cutting within the orbit of Mars. Oumuamua got within the orbit of Mercury, which makes it even more dynamic, but still getting by the orbit of Mars is significant. And the explanation for this and how it's able to cause greater solar activity is due to plasma. Now we're going to look at two.
Okay, so that was a lot to digest, but basically what he's saying is that it can have the object itself can have gravitational effects on the sun, which can affect that solar sheet, which could potentially change the shape of it, which could cause us to get hit with solar energy more often or with higher intensity. And that visualization is supposed to give you an idea of how that interaction takes place. But here is where he's going to be explaining the what could possibly cause the amount of light that's coming off of it. It's got like 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes for the warm up, right? I don't know if I'm gonna make it in time, but we'll try.
Images of 3i Atlas, one by Hubble, which is this image, and then another one by Gemini. And so here we see 3i Atlas. We also see these stars. What they did is they focused on 3i Atlas and tracked it, so we don't get it with this motion blur, but the stars get the motion blur, the background stars. You'll notice that it has this envelope there, which is very, very bright because it's reflecting light from the sun. And you'll notice that it has this kind of coma, this larger kind of bubble around it too. So the size estimate for 3i Atlas is quite a bit smaller than the coma. The coma is about 2 times the diameter of the Earth right now. So effectively, this gaseous and dusty envelope surrounding this smaller body of ice and rock is twice the size of the Earth. And the current size estimate for 3i Atlas inside this coma, which is twice the diameter of the Earth, is only 320 meters up to 5.6 kilometers. This is based off of this Hubble imagery, and of course, we actually don't know what the size is inside there, but that's kind of the range, the best working estimate that we have right now, 5.6.
So it's not a very big object. 5.6 kilometers, as he said, being the largest, which puts it about 3.5 miles wide, which is not huge by any means. But for it to be putting off as much gas as it is, and with such a large radius, like twice the size or twice the radius of Earth, that requires a lot of matter. And the question is, where is that matter coming from?
Kilometers at its widest. And it's this rocky, icy body, unless it is an alien ship. But what happens is solar radiation hits that, causes a lot of ice and other volatiles to sublimate into a gas. And here's where a lot of people fail to pick up the next step in physics, is that, well, the sun is always pumping out a ton of ionizing radiation. This is X-ray light, extreme ultraviolet light. This is also just regular ultraviolet light. And well, that causes a gas to ionize, and now it is a plasma. And so what you have happen is when a gas ionizes, it'll become a plasma, and then there's a certain rate where the plasma will decharge back into a neutral gas. But if there's enough ionizing radiation coming in, it'll basically stay plasmified, and there'll be a percentage of this gaseous body that is plasma. And the closer it's going to get to the sun, the greater that plasmification, you could call it, will be. So we don't know.
So there's a lot of things about plasma. As you probably know, lightning is plasma. The surface of the sun is plasma. Plasma is kind of anomalous in a lot of ways. They call it the fourth state of matter because it's not a gas and it's not a liquid, but it's kind of a gaseous liquid or a liquidy kind of gas form. But plasma has kind of a high gravity. It typically doesn't exist in a stable state for long periods of time without very special conditions being met. In this instance, a lot of those conditions are being met. So it's possible that the big glowing mass of dust that we're seeing is in fact just ionized particles that are attracted to each other and are staying very stable and maintaining their position, that it's not actually off-gassing a lot, but that it just has basically kind of like a barrier of dust that has just been suspended in a state of plasma and is basically, like I said, maintaining its same mass mostly. Like, it's not really releasing a lot, so that could explain why it seems as though it's off-gassing more than it should be due to its size and mass, because of the fact that it's not actually gas and it's not actually uh, particles, but it's plasma that is kind of encasing the object. It's a good explanation. It could actually explain what we're seeing and do it well without having to uh, speculate too much. It's a very well known interaction.
How much of this is plasma right now, but certainly not just neutral gas. It is the fourth state of matter. And in addition to that, there's a whole bunch of dust that surrounds a comet. And so this is creating what's known as a complex dusty plasma. Now, 99.9% of the universe is made up of plasma, and a lot of that plasma actually exists in a complex dusty state. So you get these very small dust particles that build up an electromagnetic charge because they attract these ions to them. And so there is a certain amount of gas that gets ionized, breaks apart, and then actually those electrons will go fly over and attach to a very tiny micron or nanometer scale dust particle, and so it actually stays as a plasma, the leftover, let's say, cation, like hydrogen, let's say. So in fact, this is a complex dusty plasma envelope surrounding whatever this inner body is, and that gives it very unique electromagnetic dynamics, because what we see in complex dusty plasmas is that they readily form double layers, and they can form hot and cold regions that are very distinct from each other in their structure. They can also form crystalline structures, and they can maintain that structure across time, or they have kind of like this fluid adaptability, which often and kind of seems lifelike. So they have this ability to preserve and not just kind of, let's say, it gets ionized and then every.
Right. So that was kind of the point I was trying to get at, is that plasma has a way of like conserving itself. It acts almost like he said, kind of lifelike, where like a plasma, if it starts to dissipate or destabilize, it will start to like almost kind of attract more plasma nearby to help sustain itself. Or like if it gets too far away from the source, like it will almost seemingly turn around on purpose and try to head back towards where the most condensed location is at. And so it's a very odd kind of matter, and it could explain some of the things that we're seeing.
Everything gets stripped away. They have a lot of markers of life and intelligence. So we have this very dynamic electromagnetic body twice the diameter of the Earth passing through the inner solar system, and as it gets closer to the sun, it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, more ionized, more complex, and as a result, it's going to be interacting with the electric circuit of the inner solar system, also the magnetic field of the inner solar system. And that very likely is going to provoke some significant solar activity through its approach to the inner solar system, October through probably the end of November.
So that was the important point that I was trying to get at. So because of the composition of this object and the way that it's interacting and how close it's going to pass to the sun, all of these factors combine to create an object that is very anomalous and is going to have some significant effects on the solar system and our solar weather and stuff in the near future. So it's something that I think is worth paying attention to, whether you think it's aliens or whether you hope it might be aliens, or whether you are just interested in how this could affect temperatures or crops. I mean, it could have an effect on stuff like that. This is something that is important to, I believe, a lot of people, and may have some heavy implications for the future. So definitely check out the video. Stefan Burns, Three Eye Atlas is a super intelligence from deep space. Um, he's always got some fun content. If you are interested in solar weather or geological events, stuff like that, he talks about a lot of that. He also talks about like astronomical stuff. He is a geophysicist and or an astrophysicist and a very reliable source for a lot of things. He's also got some kind of spiritual content. As I said, he's like I think he practices Reiki. So if you're into stuff like that too, he's got kind of a wide array of content. Also check out The Angry Astronaut. He goes over a lot of very interesting stuff as well, and he will be following Three Eye Atlas for the next few months, I would assume. It's a very interesting object, and there's going to be quite a lot coming out of it in the coming months. So be on the lookout for more of that. Thank you so much for being here, everybody that stuck around and stayed interested in the content. As I said, I know this is something a little bit different than I normally talk about on this channel, but I think it's just very relevant and it's something that everybody should pay attention to. If you are concerned about crops, like I said, if you are somebody that grows vegetables or works in a farm, or even if you are just wanting to know what kind of weather to expect for October or the coming weeks, definitely something to keep track of. So, hope you all appreciated the content. Hope you all enjoyed the Trackmania. I'm probably not going to be doing Cup of the Day. I actually have to be somewhere in about 30 minutes, unfortunately. So, I mean, I could do like a qualification or whatever, but if I'm going to do Cup of the Day, I think I'm probably going to dedicate myself to that. I appreciate Apollo for the suggestion, and if you guys are interested in that, I wouldn't be opposed to doing it. I just haven't really gotten into Cup of the Day. It's kind of like a little bit more competitive than I am prepared for, but might be fun. Any case, greatly appreciate everybody. I hope you enjoyed the content, and I hope you come back for the next one. Definitely hit that follow, like, subscribe, and yeah, stay safe, stay cool, and as always, trust in the bloodlust. But, oh, come on. We'll figure it out. Take it easy.